Hey Ted, how you doing today? My name's Dave Grindle. It's a pleasure to digitally meet you. And through both this podcast submission and my online application through your website, I would hope that we could begin to speak about getting up on stage and giving a TED Talk. I proudly and confidently am now working on my submission for the TED Prize as well, because if this discussion here does not end up bringing me to a place where we can have this discussion on a stage for the world to see and put forth the ideas and the math behind what we're about to discuss, then I would very much like to throw my lot in with everyone else in the world, though they may be far more intelligent than I or more well-educated than I believe that the merit and the tenacious spirit behind the concept of what I call Zero Fail, which was originally a company, but now I feel is just a title, a slogan, a brand that I can't shake, because it's ingrained so deeply with this idea that if I end up having to form an organization or a foundation based on the charitable, philanthropic, self-funded nature of this venture, I believe it's time to just step right out and have this conversation. Now, my creative development style has always been completely freestyle, nothing scripted nor brainstormed prior. It always just seems to come most richly when it is off the cuff, from the most honest place of one's heart. Tonight would be probably the 6th time, and here I am Sunday morning at 1:01 a.m. beginning to record a discussion to place for candidacy on the TED stage. This idea attempts and will succeed at solving the tangible problems of the human species in the year 2016, now within the next year, far before the close of this year, I would venture to say, very confidently, due to the connected nature of human beings today, which I have harnessed for our benefit in terms of money, because money is what it all boils down to. The truth is, if I want to feed everyone, if I want to give everyone access to clean water, if I want to give people clothing appropriate to the elements of the climate in which they live, and the chance to educate themselves, not just on their own culture and on the basics of knowledge human beings develop and take hold of and use to better the world and themselves, but access to knowledge about how the rest of the world has come to be and their place in what they can truly make improvements to. Not just themselves, not just their communities, their local contacts, their family members and friends, but the large global network of human beings as a whole, and its value. And value's where this all started. Because I look at free ways to raise infinite money and use that infinite money to buy all the resources necessary for all 7 billion, and in the future, many more billions of us. And to give everybody the equal chance at a foundation to build on and create a successful, happy, creative, prosperous human being over the course of the time they're alive on the planet. I can't give you anything else. And I can only really solve, easily anyway, one half of the equation that makes up a human being. Now, my equation is based on the tangible and physical needs of a human being, because the existential is built on top of that, if you might agree with me. The existential part involves not just our culture and the intangible, immaterial things that make up a human being, a sentient, living, rolling camera in 24-hour periods, living throughout years, decades, if you're lucky, a century plus. And you have feelings, you have opinions, you think subconsciously and realize the automatic things about your body and the things that make you quirky and truly unique and individual amongst a flock of very obviously 7 billion similar physical machines. It's the sentient thing, it's the immaterial that's inside of it that makes you you. And what you do and use your physical body machine for to house this camera and this memory hard drive throughout all your life, it shapes your physical being. But you know what I think will foster a true good use as individuals, which by solely their actions throughout their lifetime have ingrained themselves in who we are as a culture today, sometimes many thousands of years later, by their actions and their effect based on their charisma on other human beings, has made the history of nations for 10,000 years and beyond, and made us continually advance, incrementally, of course, throughout these many ages and eons. But we have advanced from a period we identify in which people live the most basic and survivalist lives possible, fleeing natural disasters and their misunderstanding and ignorance of the way the world worked mathematically, scientifically. And those are such broad terms, but truly every action and movement of existence and all of the measurements we make of our lives, what we feel and know while we live, is based heavily on just math and how things break down. The units of life, the units of matter, and this grand spectrum we live in. Well, I don't and cannot ever hope to sate the thirsts of other human beings in being able to tell you, yeah, man, this is obviously where we came from, and this is why we're here. This is what you should be doing with your life. When the camera's rolling, this is how you should think and feel, because you can think and feel, and it's because of this. So go forth and just be happy and don't worry about it anymore. Take that off the plate. And then looking around at your fellow man, fellow woman, fellow senior citizen or child, no matter what they look like, you're like, whoa, this camera and this personality inside, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Some people are good looking, some people are ugly, and that's a lot different than some people are smart and some people are dumb, because we can definitely say that about the human race as a total. But you notice that the ones who are smart tend to, by any means possible in the realm of existence, sustain themselves physically to get to a point where their impact based on their knowledge, their interpretation of the world and how it works, and the universe and how it works, they advance us in some way to take us to the next level. This isn't just what it's like in video games or reading through a textbook. We can tell based on people that you're either charismatic enough to matter in the whole lot of us, you're smart enough to matter, or you're brave enough to matter, or you're greedy enough to matter. You're manipulative enough to matter. That's what gets you in the position to make a difference. And I hope to make a difference today by just being sensible and reasonable enough to matter and to make a difference. Here's the deal. Pardon me. To make money for free and without incurring physical effort from either yourself or others in any capacity, and to make money for free without asking other people for their money, we had to divine a careful way to both integrate making money for free with zero effort to get everybody involved that could possibly do so within our human community. And I figured the way to do that would be super easily through YouTube. Now, to make money on YouTube, you either get paid by YouTube Vanilla, so those people not paying $9.99 for YouTube Red will still make YouTubers money by way of a breakdown called RPM, or the monetary value per 1,000 views. And so you get as many views as you can on videos which have ads attached to them. You can have, scroll ads at the bottom during, but if you maximize your monetization, you can get paid anywhere from $1.50 to $3.50 per K views. Now, the goal is to have 9 to 50 1-minute videos. And this works in both the realm of YouTube Vanilla because the video is short, so the video counts, and most of your time is eaten up by the ads attached to them. So if I put one in front and one in back, hopefully no more than 30 seconds, unskippable, I think is more money for the maximum profit. And I have figured in my initial math that we would be looking at about $2.15 to start. And it worked out very well for me in my initial description of what that income could be used for as an individual single point of responsibility, essentially a solo one-person mega charity that did nothing more than make 1-minute videos en masse and put them up over 24-hour periods. And if I could get 500 million viewers to watch 10 videos, 5 billion views in one day. Now, 5 billion views with a revenue value of $2.15 per K nets me $10,750,000 in a single day. Now, that might sound super impressive, and sure, that should blast right out at you, and that's cool. Because we've already seen people like PewDiePie who have, who can count their views total personally for, I would imagine, the millions each day based on their volume. And YouTube Red, obviously being ad-free, allows YouTubers to make money through dominance of the shared total time pool of daily viewing through YouTube. So I'm getting 5 million minutes of view time. 5 billion minutes of view time each day. So I think I can safely assume domination of YouTube Red. And domination is such a pleasant, gleeful term to use when you're actually talking about doing something good. But it's the doing good more than just, bringing in money, because haven't charities, as long as I can remember, seem to have just been collecting either small pittances to, feed children, give children clean water for those countries in Africa with the severely underprivileged, and the spread of disease through both mosquitoes and the way people, giving to UNICEF their pocket change could get mosquito nets if everybody helped out. Well, you know what? I'm not bringing 30 cents a day for the children that are thirsty. I'm not bringing a few pennies from the back seat of my car so that people cannot get malaria and dengue. What I'm doing is then saying, oh, thanks for $10.75 million. Hey, I was wondering, based on what I Googled the other day, is through your organization there, Feed the World, that I could buy a well for $5,000 American that would provide up to 250 people clean water for 20 years. That sounds swell. And they're like, oh yeah, so, can I put you down for a few wells here or here? And I'm like, actually, I was hoping to buy 2,000 of them, so let's get started building those today. If you could, let me jog the process along from the usual I'm sorry, I tend to try to skip forward in time when I'm getting really revved up. And I think I could eliminate that and condense this with a much shorter introduction for the TED stage, only having a format of 18 minutes, I believe. But that's only 10 million of the total pot. And I mean, for one day's work, that's great. 2,000 wells is a lot of clean water for people, and 2,000 wells is a good day's work, but I still have 750,000 left over. And with that 750K, I could coincidentally solve the other half of the African major crisis consideration by saying, those mosquito nets you're talking about that can protect a family from disease very efficiently for only $10, I was, such a coincidence, about to buy 75,000 of those. So, get those cracking and get them over there right now. Because it's not just me trying to hold you accountable. If I just gave away almost $11 million over the course of the day, the sensationalist aspect of that can only help to draw more of an audience. But they're not coming to the headline on YouTube. Huge philanthropy YouTube campaign found out to be a fraud. Millions of dollars embezzled. I will happily, on day 3 or 4, after these next few items are taken care of and checked off the list, will take $1.181 million for myself and my family to both make my entire family debt-free and help them out, first and foremost as part of a mission on my own behalf to give back to these people who have struggled, but to do every day my best to give that kind of happiness, that kind of reaction, that kind of instant mega relief to everyone else, not just my own flesh and blood, not just the people I've lived my entire lives with, but your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, your nieces and nephews, brothers, sisters, children. The whole world deserves the chance to breathe easily and to sleep well, because the world isn't coming down on them and making it hard for them, that they should have to struggle to get what can be given for no struggle at all. It's not going to take anything for 500 million people. YouTube has a regular monthly active audience of 1.44 billion people. And YouTube says that they get about 4 billion views every day. I can steal some of them views. If you're already there, why don't you give me 10 minutes of your time? Now, in the future, after this is proven to repeatedly succeed, and we see the math continue to prove that, say I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and what I want to do is not change the system. I'm not going to waste my time and get doors shut and bridges burned with the people who I'd have to work with to actually get people what they need in this venture. I'm just going to work within the system. It became at some point predominantly about money and being just the simple monetary value of the resources we consume, the services and efforts given forth by human beings, that it does well and simply categorize what things are worth in the most general sense, and everybody can understand that. It becomes convoluted when we apply other math to it to give certain advantages in whatever area. It's not about that. This is a simple way for me to say, hey, everybody in the world, if you don't want to continue to see these problems advertised, and somehow hundreds of millions are being donated every year for tax exemption, but great, you know what? You get your tax credits and people get what they need. But it seems like the people don't necessarily ever get what they need. That money just floats around somewhere, and it doesn't happen. But when you have somebody making in my bank account, which part of the money I would take for myself on one net take of 10 million or more being 1.181, I would definitely say that it would pay for the most brutal and incredible software possible to contain all these funds coming to one. And you know what, man? It is one way in, one way out, and that's through me. But I'm not doing this so that I can ruin the lives of myself and my children by stealing money and getting everybody not to give their money and not making any of these families or investors go broke by being a jackass. That it would actually just be people watching YouTube like they do every day, and one person, me, getting all this money and saying, Walmart, I heard that for $261, a grocery cart to generously feed a family of 4 for a week. Now, $173 a week is the average to feed a family of 4, and that works out to $692 a month. And even if I attempted to just cover everything with the rubric of $10.75 million every day, that's 15,534, or, give or take a couple families that could be fed for a month in a single day by working with a chain of superstores that already moves incredible bulk amounts of food around the country with a established shipping network. Self-sustainable. Here's the money, give it out to the people. And you know who's watching you is the people. That's how this stays honest. That's how it stays going and picks up steam to where we can harness, at the least, notwithstanding when the audience grows, by spending that kind of money every day to equip every school and every school attendee in the country with the proper hardware and software to provide an internet-connected and internet-assisted education process to access programs to teach us every language in the world should we choose to learn them, to make learning possible no matter where you are, and to make every facet of our lives easier. Let me tell you something. If I got 1.44 billion people to watch 25 videos a day, then I'd be looking at $108 million in profit every single day. And not much has changed because of the success of Zero Fail, this initiative to actively and easily and in a very user-friendly and transparent way funnel the money in from creating arguably the most valuable airtime in history, and having companies also, you know what, man, if I'm going to do a 1-minute video, I'll do a 1-minute video for you, Coca-Cola, but it's going to cost you because everybody is going to hear about Coke. I'm not talking about you make a commercial and I put it on. I will talk about the merits, the pros and cons of Coca-Cola, and why, how much you gave, what you gave will be used to purchase as a company, as whatever organization you can think of wanting to buy this airtime for a minute, because that's real. That's real. You're not paying me to advertise to the world and get a chance to speak to the entire world, or what can be said of the technologically connected parts of the world. You're paying the world to hear your pitch as to why they should have you in their lives. So yeah, you can think of any number of companies that would be able to foot huge bills. I'm talking about how much do people pay for 30 seconds of airtime on the Super Bowl? You're looking at a whole new level of, you know, if you give me $200 million for a minute's airtime slot to speak to the entire world, that's very valuable airtime, but it's going to be more valuable to talking again with textile and clothing companies to make and distribute enough clothing appropriate to atmosphere to clothe every single person, not just in the United States, but worldwide. And of course, if you're saying, will $200 million buy a whole wardrobe of clothes for 7 billion people? No. But if I make $108 million a day, you're dang sure that we can put a dent in it every year until it's done. And most people don't need 4 closets worth of clothes. Most people do not want, on pain of death, 4 closets worth of clothes. Like me, I don't want that. I wear the same 10 t-shirts and the same 10 pairs of jeans and shorts. And every weekend, every time I have off from work, I wear the same t-shirt and shorts. So it's easy for me. But people everywhere could definitely use appropriate clothing, and I can buy that for you. And thank you for your words that you gave to the world, Company X. Truth be told, $108 million per day in a philanthropic organization equates to $39.42 billion annually. What's interesting about that number is not just its jaw-dropping reality of, because you know what? That is a service. That is a product. That is what money is about. The worth of an apple should really only be enough to say, hey, this is accounted for, that I sold an apple. If you ask me, because it's part of things people definitely need. And the healthier things about what people need, that should be what's making its way to everybody en masse, not the horribly tampered with food items that most people are given and forced to have as their options rather than something good and productive and healthy for your body. The current United Nations world estimate to successfully feed everyone in the world for 1 year is $30 billion. I just exceeded that by nearly $10 billion. And then you know what? You don't have to worry about waiting for whole groups of people that administrate to countries deciding on how feeding everybody is going to be done and, you know, what ways we'll try to make it work. You said it's $30 billion because there's enough food to feed everybody, and to buy it for everybody would be $30 billion. Well, I just made 39, so here's 30 of it, and that should ensure everybody eats, right? And if you don't get it, this whole thing is backed by 2 facts that I find supremely interesting as a solid foundation for why this idea should come into play and become a part of our world. Is number one, it has built-in kill switches. If I turn out to be lying, if I'm some evil robot from the future that is trying to make huge amounts of money and somehow still screw everybody over, so Well, I guess I nearly made it 25 minutes before I lost my train of thought, and now I don't know what the last thing I said is. We were having a budget discussion through Facebook Messenger, my wife and I. And I think it's very interesting that everybody, once they fully... Because, okay, wait, before I go on to that, that means $9.42 billion in a year is left over. If I kept taking that same $1.181 million once a year to indefinitely sustain a truly positively great way of life for me and my family, with land enough for my dogs, and I could probably finally friggin' afford to buy the max level love forever for my daughters by buying horses for them, and could actually afford to keep them healthy and happy on enough land for them to, clip-clop around on. Let my dogs run around. My fat bulldog needs exercise, and he's tired of apartments since, I was in the Navy, and he's still not free to roam and snort and sneeze, and the little wiener dog would finally stop barking at everyone and being claustrophobic and could run around free with the horses he wishes to run with. But that's the kind of life everybody deserves to live if they want to. And just because I'll have enough room for my family, I don't ever want a palace or a mansion. If I bought a little helicopter to make getting to the store easy for me, that would be sweet. But I'd probably just get a drone. Those aren't expensive. What I would get, speaking of how everything is run by money, is for, I think, $1.8 million, you can buy a sweet Gundam, like a fighting mech from Japan. I saw that online. I would definitely get a bunch of those and just have, robot battles on some land I bought somewhere where nobody would be affected by the crazy, terrible weapons they have on them. And then, they could put out fires and we'd have giant robot civic servants. Pretty nice, right? Well, let's keep it real, because the figures continue when you just think about breaking down the need for water and food and shelter. Because I look at the math, not even looking at the whole country yet, because it's easy when you look at it on a day-to-day basis. But if I want to, how you combat homelessness? You find all of these open apartment complexes, both new and existing, and buy up all of their rooms for a year. Because there's enough housing for everybody. People just can't afford housing, so I just buy the rents for as many apartments as I could over a month or two, and that solves homelessness. Because if I pay for a year's rent for you, no questions asked, don't throw your life away, bro. I mean, I'll continue to give a chance, but if you kill yourself doing drugs or live in a crazy, reckless, worthless lifestyle, I'm not going to cry over it, because somebody will probably step right in there that's like, I'm not that person. I actually have aspirations. I want to help out. I want to make my life what it can be because I have the opportunity now. And with groceries in your refrigerator, with access to a computer and the internet to give you the whole world and all its cultures at your fingertips wherever you are, a smartphone for everyone. And I'm not worried. Again, I can't give you the existential. I can't say this will stop. If the Middle East looked like Jacksonville, Florida, except everybody there was Muslim and everybody there, had all the food and water they needed and had access to education. Look, if you don't want education or you're willing to leave, I will buy 1,000 mechs and I'll send them to the countries where people are known to be violently or brutally oppressed. And I'll say, hey, we're from Zero Fail. My robotic holograph face will, then be broadcasted in front of said warlord or despot or criminal or, group leader, and say, hey, anybody that wants to live anywhere else in the world where you can truly choose your own destiny and you don't have anybody telling you what to think or feel, you're free to go. The planes are over there. This isn't a trick either. This is legit. We could afford it, so we figured we'd give it. And if any of these fools want to intercede, then, it's done for. I have a robot army. And I feel like if I truly do this right and truly earn the trust through my integrity and continual proving of my worth by doing it right and sticking to my word, we can continue to just do the math together. We can continue to give everyone this opportunity, and if the people that would fight against it, or I don't know, maybe assassinate me, the bad people that seem to always fight against good ideas, we'll deal with that in the future. Okay, but for now, I really would thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and maybe get something going on a larger scale. I think it's good for everybody. Thanks.